Howdy, it's Sam, aka Batman. It is Tuesday, February 6th, and time is getting short for me. I have about 35 days to go before I step off from Springer on my 2024 Novo AT thru hike. What I wanted to go over with you today, obviously, is sleeping pads. These are just a few of the pads that I have and I have used over the last couple of years. When I first started camping as a kid, I didn't use a sleeping pad. I just threw my sleeping bag down on the ground and slept as was. I can't do that anymore. And I'm certain a lot of you don't want to do that. I graduated in the 70s to a closed cell foam pad, probably 3/4 to an inch thick. That was rolled up on the outside of my pack. You'll often see photos from the 70s and early 80s of those. I then switched over primarily to Thermarest, which were a little bit more comfortable, gave you a little bit more R value, and were easier to use and relatively inexpensive. I have now switched over to a different pad, and I'll get into that a little later. What I wanted to do was start now with some of the more popular pads that I've seen, including the pad that I use. The first one you're going to see a lot on the trail is the Thermarest Z-Lite Sole. This is the one you'll see hooked up to the back of somebody's pack. It is relatively inexpensive. It only comes in at about $48 at REI. You can get it on Amazon for $46, $47. This is a 20-inch wide pad by 72 inches long. I think they do make a long. I'm not certain if they make a wide. The weight of this thing, surprisingly, is about 14 ounces. So it's going to be heavier than some of the other Thermarests, but it's going to be only slightly lighter than some of the other pads that I'm going to show you over the next couple of minutes. It only has about 3/4 of an inch of cushioning, and its R value is only 2. When you're considering a pad, you have to look at really 4 factors, in my opinion. You've got to look at, obviously, the weight. You've got to look at the comfort of it. How much cushioning is there? You also have to look at compressibility. How easy is it to pack this thing down in your pack? And I think most important, if you're doing hiking anytime other than the summer, you're going to look at R value. How warm is the pad? Because it's the pad that actually provides you with the warmth from your bottom up, not the sleeping bag or the quilt. So this only has an R value of 2. So even though it says it's 3 season, when you get much beyond probably September or before April, this may not be sufficient for you, particularly in a cold winter, cold spring, cold fall. What you may want to do is combine this with another one of these pads, particularly if you're camping in the wintertime. My next pad is probably the most common pad that you see other than the Z, and that's the Uberlite by Thermarest. It is only about 8 ounces in the 72 by 25. It's a mummy shape as opposed to a square shape like the Z. It doesn't give you a lot of R value. I think the R value is down in the mid-2s. The thickness is not that great. It's only probably about 3 inches thick, maybe even less than that. Again, it's very light. It makes a lot of noise when you're sleeping on it. I've often heard the comparison that it's like sleeping on a bag of potato chips. The other thing is that it's fragile. I had on our AT22 hike 2 of these things go on me before the knock. 2. And this is actually one that was repaired by Thermarest for me at my expense, because they didn't consider the damage, the holes, to be a breach of warranty. It's a limited warranty. This thing comes in at about $230 or $38 for the regular, and about $260 for the large and wide. Next up is the Thermarest. This is the Neo Light. It is slightly heavier, slightly warmer, slightly less expensive than the Uber Light. Again, it's a mummy shape, so it doesn't give you the width that perhaps the Z Light gives you, or some of the other pads that I'm going to go into. Again, it's like sleeping on a bag of potato chips. It's very crinkly. You don't get a lot of cushioning, but it is lighter. It comes in at, I think, about 12 to 13 ounces. You know, it's one that you're going to see a lot on the trail. That and the Uber Light. Next one that I have here, I think, this is the Big Agnes. This is the Air AXL. I'm not certain if this is still available. One other thing I want to point out, and this might be an indication that I have another hole in these. I filled all these up the other day, and this morning when I came in here, both of the Thermarests had lost all their air. So I probably have another hole in these. I'm going to leave these blown up. This is the Big Agnes Air AXL insulated. This is a square pad. It's 25 inches wide by 72 inches long. It is about $180 if you can still find it. It comes in at about 13 ounces. It has an R factor of 3, and it's almost 4 inches wide when fully expanded. I think it's a great pad. It is a little heavier, but Robin actually uses, this is actually Robin's, and she uses it. It's got one portal both to fill it up and to let the air out. But all in all, it packs down pretty well when you get all the air out. And my suggestion, when you're packing a pad, don't roll it up. Fold it and slip it down the back, between your back and the rest of the gear in your pack. The next one I have is a Big Agnes SLX Q Core insulated. This retails at about $130. This is a 20-inch pad, or 20-inch wide pad. It's 72 inches long. I think it does come in the large. Again, I don't know that either of these are still available from Big Agnes. You'll have to check, though. I did see that at Amazon you could still buy both of them. It has an R factor of slightly under 3, about 2.0. It's about 17 ounces in weight, and it's actually about 22 ounces in weight. I'm reading something else. It's about 3 inches thick. I've used this pad a couple of times, and it's a fairly warm pad. And then my final pad is the Nemo Tensor insulated. Again, I'm not certain that this one is still available. The story is that on our AT hike in 2022 at Neal Gap, by the time I got to Neal Gap, my Uber Light had sprung a leak. So I sent it home and I bought another Uber Light at Neal Gap at Mountain Crossing. I can't remember how far I got. It was before the knock, and the second Uber Light sprung a leak. And these were leaks that were not, according to Thermarest, not manufacturing defects. They were basically punctures from misuse. meaning that somehow they got a hole in them. And the holes were all around the nozzles. So I bought this actually at the Knock. This is the one I'm probably going to use on my upcoming hike. It's about $190 if you can find it. This is a wide. It's 72 inches long by 25 inches wide. They used to come in a large and a wide. The weight is about 17 ounces. Now, the discrepancy is that I've heard 3 different figures for this thing as far as R value. I've heard a 2.8, I've heard a 3.5, and I've heard a 4.2. I'm not certain which it is, but it's a warm pad. I was using this pad in mid-March. We had a couple of cold days, even with some snow back in 22, and I never felt cold, even when we were in the Smokies in this. And so I think I'm going to carry this again. It folds down fairly well in my pack. When you are blowing up your pack, I would advise not breathing directly into the nozzles, because what you can do is you can basically add condensation to the interior of the pack. That has the potential for creating mold, which could damage the interior baffles. Each of these packs now comes with a blow-up bag. This one is for Thermarest. I'm actually not certain where the one is for the Nemo, but I can use this big Abnus one on the Nemo. The other thing you can do is you can buy one of these doodads. This is called a Flex Tail, and it is a pump. I can't remember what the price of this was. This comes in at about 2.5 ounces. It has a variety of attachments depending upon what kind of nozzle you have. This thing I got, well, I didn't use this on the AT. I used the bag on the AT. But later on that year, I used it. We took a couple of backpacking trips in 22 in the Sierra, and I used this, and I got a whole bunch of charges, blow-ups on this. The other thing is you can reverse it and actually suck all the air out of the pad. Makes it easier for you to get ready to go up and moving in the morning. So they do make a lighter one. They make a smaller one. Doesn't have as large of a battery life, but it's also about 1.5 ounces lighter. So that's it. If you have any questions, drop me a line. I would really appreciate it if you would give me a thumbs up, subscribe. Thanks for watching, and see you down the trail.